So let's dig into a really powerful idea today, that the deepest cure for despair, well, it isn't found in comfort or pleasure, but in having a profound sense of purpose. We're going to look at this through two very different lenses, one from modern psychology and another from ancient faith, that you'll see arrive at a remarkably similar conclusion about what it really means to be human.
You know the feeling, right? It's a strange modern problem. You can have a good job, stability, all the things we're told we should want, and yet there's still this nagging feeling of emptiness. It's not just a bad mood. For a lot of people, it's this persistent ache deep down. So what's missing? What's the missing piece of the puzzle?
Well, the psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl actually gave this feeling a name. He called it the existential vacuum. He described it as this deep void right where our sense of meaning should be. And he saw that when we don't fill that void with a genuine purpose, we try to plug it with other things, right? Distractions, pleasure, power, which, as you can imagine, often leads to these downward spirals of addiction, depression, and even aggression.
That feeling of emptiness, it points to something really fundamental about us. Frankl argued our deepest, most profound motivation isn't the search for pleasure or power, but the search for meaning. He really believed our core drive as human beings is to find a why for our existence. So let's explore two powerful frameworks that get right to the heart of this quest.
Okay, so on one side, you have Frankl's logotherapy, with its central idea of the will to meaning. But what's absolutely fascinating is how this modern psychological insight finds this deep, deep echo in the ancient Islamic concept of ibadah, which is all about living a life defined by a divine purpose. Both of these frameworks, coming from totally different places, see this search for meaning not as some kind of luxury, but as the primary force driving us.
Now, the word ibadah is usually translated as worship, but that's really just scratching the surface. It's much bigger. It's about servitude, about submission. In this worldview, it's not just about prayer or fasting. No, it reframes your entire life as one continuous act of meaning. Your work, your kindness to others, your role in society, it's all part of a larger purpose. This connects to the idea of being a khalifa, or a steward, someone entrusted to build up society and care for the world. So purpose isn't just some internal feeling. It's an active, real-world job.
And here's the foundational why from the Qur'an. This verse basically says that life isn't just some random accident. It's an existence with an ultimate divine purpose. And a framework like this, well, it offers a permanent anchor, a reason for being that doesn't change no matter what's happening in the world around you.
Okay, but what about when things go wrong? And they always do, right? What about pain and loss and suffering? This is where the true power of a purpose-driven life really becomes clear. It's where hardship can actually be transformed into hope.
Frankl didn't dream up these theories in a comfortable office. He developed them in the most horrific laboratory you could ever imagine, the Nazi concentration camps. He saw his entire family murdered, and yet, in the middle of all that, he noticed something incredible. The people who were most likely to survive, they weren't the strongest physically. They were the ones who held on to a meaning, a book they needed to finish, a loved one they had to see again. They had a why to live for. This quote, this just captures everything. It's the core of his discovery. Think about it. He realized that pain is just a part of life. You can't avoid it. But suffering, that's pain without a meaning. The second you find a reason for your pain, maybe it's a sacrifice for someone you love, or for a cause, or even for your own growth, the whole experience changes. It becomes bearable. It becomes purposeful.
And you see this exact same idea in the Islamic concept of the akhirah, the hereafter. In this view, our life here is just a temporary test. So hardships aren't just pointless tragedies, they're seen as meaningful investments in an eternal life. They're opportunities to show patience and faith, which will ultimately be rewarded. This perspective gives every single moment of struggle a profound purpose.
So this all leads us to a huge crossroads in how we live our lives. Are we just chasing comfort, or are we pursuing a calling? Because those two paths, they lead to completely different destinations.
And here's where the contrast becomes crystal clear. A life that's all about seeking pleasure is incredibly fragile. Its main goal is to avoid pain. So when pain inevitably shows up, the whole system just collapses into despair. Your peace depends completely on external things, money, status, that you can't control. But a life of purpose? That's robust. Its goal is to chase a why, and that builds resilience. It creates an internal source of peace. This is what leads to what Frankl called tragic optimism, the incredible ability to say yes to life in spite of everything.
Okay, this next idea, it might feel a little weird, a little counterintuitive.
We're always told that the goal is a stress-free life, right? To find this state of perfect calm. But what if that's completely wrong?
Frankl called this idea noodynamics. It sounds a little academic, I know, but the concept is simple. He argued that mental health isn't about having zero tension. It's actually about the healthy, dynamic tension between who you are right now and who you could become. That striving, that gap, that's the engine of a meaningful life. It's what keeps us going.
So you're probably asking, okay, this is great, but how do I find this meaning? Well, Frankl laid out 3 big paths. First, by creating something or doing a deed, your work. Second, by experiencing something or encountering someone, basically through love and connection. And third, and maybe this is the most profound one, by the attitude we choose to take towards suffering that we just can't change. Because even when everything else is taken from us, we still have the freedom to choose how we respond.
So when we pull these two worldviews together, modern psychology from the 20th century and ancient Islamic theology, a single, powerful, unified message just shines through, and it offers a clear, potent antidote to that existential vacuum we talked about at the beginning.
So if you take one thing away from this, let it be this. The search for happiness just by chasing comfort, it's a trap. True, lasting mental health isn't built on a foundation of pleasure. It's built on a foundation of purpose. Meaning is what lets us endure pain, grow through our struggles, and build a life that's not just happy, but resilient and deeply satisfying.
And that really just leaves us with one question to think about, a question that both Viktor Frankl and the Islamic tradition would want us to ask ourselves. In your own life, with all its good times and its hard times, what is the why that gives meaning to your how?